Good morning. Look at the size of that coffee this morning. It is, it's not even 5 o'clock yet and it's super early, but look at this. We have had over 100 mil of rain last night and that's special. Plenty going on and plenty to do today, which is one of the reasons why I'm up really early, but even more to do after eating God's Word. More about that in a moment. Couldn't find a bigger cup than this morning. I'm using a vase for coffee, not just a prop, I can assure you. This week, welcome to week 3 of Ourhouse, and we're talking about kitchen today. Probably the most excited to share this with you. Absolutely had a blast on Sunday, sharing my heart, and I want to give you a bit more of a reflection on that. Particularly blown away by some things that God's been saying to me early this morning that really relate to our kids and our kitchens. So let's get into it. Welcome to our kitchen. This is our kitchen. This week we're looking particularly, or I want you to be really considering the story of Martha. She's a lady in the Bible that Jesus has a real fondness for, and there's a passage, particularly Luke chapter 10. Verses 38 to 42 that talk about the way that she served Jesus, the way that his sister hung out with Jesus while this is Martha, frantically was about cooking and serving. It's really worth considering what you think this passage is all about in light of what we're about to talk about today. Now here we go. This is me and my element. Monday nights, I've had time to sort of chill out during the day. I love to cook. I love to cook spaghetti. I'm a practiced person in spaghetti. That was my meal of choice at uni, and just love being in the kitchen and playing with
Garlic. Look at the garlic. Look at garlic.
Oh, he's a clown, isn't he? And I encourage people on Sunday to find a tool that they hadn't used before, and here we go. This we've had since we've been engaged. We've got to use that one. That was the challenge, so let's make sure we do that. Now, talking about, just giving a bit of a snapshot in our kitchen, and I want to talk about the functionality of our kitchens, and I want you to think about that in your everyday lives as we sort of pan through me doing a bit of preparation work, getting some things happening, and I'll show you a bit more about some challenges a little bit later on in this particular passage. But I want you to really consider the fact that the kitchen is a really unique place in our house and in our lives where we're actually called to be doing something. It's not a place to recline and to talk and to chat, although those things happen. Everything revolves around the fact that we're actually doing something, and there's a significance about that. There's an experimentation that happens in our kitchen. There's the tools that we have that we get to use. There's all of these things that are going on that are unlike any other room. We've got more.
Thanks, Jamie Oliver.
That's right, Jamie Oliver. Look at that. I've got some skill. That's pretty good. I'm very distracted. We've got all of these amazing things that we're able to do in our kitchen because we've got more tools in our kitchen than any other room in the house. In fact, probably more tools in our kitchen than blokes we've got in our sheds. There's more that we can do in our kitchens than any other room. And let me just challenge you with this. I think that it's about, really our kitchen is just a room if it's not used for what it was created for. If we're not actually doing what is the very function of a kitchen, which is to prepare food really. I mean, all the cleaning and everything else that happens around that is just a byproduct of the fact that the kitchen is the hub of where we feed one another. It's where we commune with one another. There's an intimacy about our kitchens that you can get nowhere else. It's set apart for that function. And we're set apart for a function as well. We're set apart with a job to do. And it's not a job. It's this function/job thing is something worth considering as well. Maybe write that down. Function versus job, because as a child of God, we're not necessarily given a job to do. We're actually given a calling and a function and an importance that is required in what God has called us to do. And I think that's really important to consider. As I think about, and I'm challenged with our kitchen, it's not a place just to prepare our meals. It's a place to train others as well. We as a family, we find that our kids just want to hang out with us in our kitchen, and you probably find the same thing as well. It's a place to actually not just talk to them, but give them an opportunity to an experiment as well, to give them the opportunity to give them some basic tools to be a part of doing what you're doing. We decided as a family that it was really important to bring in just that functionality and that greater intimacy with that mindset of kitchen by incorporating communion into our everyday lives. And I think that's really biblical, that when we meet together as families and in small groups, that it's really important that we break bread together, that we remember Jesus, and that we teach our kids that He is more than a ritual. That He is a part of our everyday life. And again, these things happen in kitchen because we're interactive and we're doing. And we say, as we eat, let's remember Jesus did these same sort of things. He sat with the people He loved and they ate and He taught them stuff. Let's do that with our kids. Let's impart to them the life that He has for us. And a part of that is the function of cleaning up as well. Part of that is all of the things that go together in that, whether we like them or not, are a part of what it is to be a family. And the family of God is no different. He's called us to things that sometimes we don't necessarily like, but they're a means to an end. He calls us through seasons because He's got some amazing things in mind. He calls us to this amazing banquet, and then we get to serve one another and continue in relationship with one another as we stand over the sink after standing over the barbecue and cooking some steaks. All of a sudden we sit and we gather together around the sink or wherever, and we clean up and we continue that conversation and we continue to do together something that is special and something that is life-giving. The doing is the special, the doing is the life-giving, and the doing is the opportunity to incorporate our kids into that. I want to share more about that in a moment, about our kids and a challenge that I believe God's giving us. But it makes a mess. We make a mess in the kitchen, and that's what's so exciting. We make a mess in life. We make mistakes. We need to clean things up. We need to ask God to help us through stuff, but that's a part of the experiment of life, and that's the intimacy He's calling us to with one another and with Himself. And I can't encourage you more strongly to consider that we are called to do and called to do together. Let's experiment. Let's do more. Let's experience more. Let's make memories. Let's just get in and get this concept. So as we wrap this time up together today, I told you I'd get back to the issue of the kids, and I was really struggling this morning to get anything from my reading in the Bible. One, because it was super early. It was 3 o'clock and I couldn't sleep. And I was reading through and I got nothing, and I'm always looking for one line. I'm looking for anything just to journal and to pull apart. And I got to Acts and I thought, you beauty, I'm going to get something from Acts, but I didn't. And I went back to, of all places, Numbers. And I came across this passage in Numbers chapter 3 verse 15. It talks about numbering of the Levites, and it talks about numbering them from their babies that are 1 month old and above. And the thing that really stood out to me was that God numbers our kids. He doesn't just know our name, but what did I say here? But the babies too were numbered. That's the massive difference. There's functions and there's calling when we think about the Levites in the Old Testament. They're the priesthood of believers, and God regards our kids in that manner. I knew it, but I'm excited by this even more than I've ever been before, because the idea of the kitchen for me is is an environment where all of us have different skills and abilities and talents and experiences, but we get to come together under this one umbrella and in this one room and in this one environment and be able to do life together. To be able to teach my kids to clean up, to be able to teach my kids why I'm doing what I'm doing, to be able to get them, not just to teach them by telling, but to get them in there and to rip things apart and to pull the tools out and to put the mixer in the bowl and to make a mess and for me to clean up after they cleaned up because they didn't do a good job or whatever else, but to do it in a constructive and not a destructive manner, where we get to experience life because we're experimenting together and because we are just doing something unique and special that doesn't happen sitting around at a TV, it doesn't happen reclining back in a chair, it doesn't happen sleeping in our beds at night, it happens by doing, and we're called as the family of God to do. It doesn't matter how insignificant you feel, it doesn't matter how young you are in your faith. God has called us and named us from birth, and as babies He gave us significance. As spiritual babies He has given us significance, and we're called to do life together. And I want to encourage you to that's not just a talk fest, it's actually using our hands, cooking together, asking questions together, pondering the greater things of life together, failing together, being built up together. That is where I find significance and encouragement. So as you get together in your group, I want you to think about all of these things that we just talked about. You've got some sheets, some questions, maybe some things today. Just ask the question, what did you get from that? Maybe that's the only place that you're going to go today. What did you get from that? What's your understanding of that? Where does that take you to? What do you think about the idea of kids in the kitchen? These are actually profoundly spiritual questions, particularly if we allow ourselves to be drawn into that conversation with one another and let God put the rest of that story together. That's really vague, but let me encourage you with this. And again, it comes from my reading this morning. And I wrote this down. It's absolutely crazy. I was struggling to get anything noteworthy today. I was looking for what God would say to me. And I had to keep looking and I had to keep looking, and then I found something, just a little thing to grasp hold of, and I just started asking questions. Well, why does this stick out to me? And I started to write about it. It's the same thing as doing. It's to start doing something and to see what happens. And all of a sudden this stuff about kids started to resonate with me and make me excited. It happened because I was doing and being and writing and expecting. Open your life up as a kitchen. Think about your life as a kitchen. Think about your circumstances as doing life together. Experiment together. Ask together. Expect together. And when things seem flat, push for it. Find it, and often in the doing, we actually find where the life is and where the answers are. Many blessings. Going to get to that big jug of coffee now, and encouraged for next week. So, again, if you've got any questions, you might not have any. You might have more questions than answers today. Certainly very happy for you to email me or to call me or to just do life with me and ask me what I'm thinking. I might not even have the answers. So, have a great time together. Looking forward to next week. See you guys.